I'd like to start, if you don't mind, with a personal question. I know you haven't been Prime Minister, but you have been Labour leader, and I'm just wondering what it feels like when your party turns against you.
Well, you have to obviously reflect on all the things that have happened and decisions you've made and so on, but I go back to 2016 when I was faced with a vote of no confidence within the Parliamentary Labour Party, which had not elected me as leader, the membership as a whole did. And my immediate response was that I was elected by a wider electorate. I will go out and campaign with them. So I went out straight away and did a very large number of local meetings, rallies and so on, which one should do, building up. What I find very strange in the current situation is that it's very obvious that Andy Burnham is going to run for being leader of the Labour Party. That's hardly a secret. I don't understand what Keir Starmer's strategy is in this, other than saying he's going to fight it, but not doing anything very obvious to fight it. I just wonder if we're not going to witness a coronation of Andy Burnham in a few days' time.
Interesting. Sticking, though, with the personal side of this, I know that you're saying you turned outwards, but there is also a need sometimes to turn inwards, isn't there, to talk to people who've been your trusted colleagues, your confidants. What does that feel like when the number of those disappear? And who do you think he will be talking to? Who's going to be the influential voice in his ear saying either fight on or time to throw in the towel?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I see that Morgan McSweeney is now back, apparently, going into Downing Street and advising the Prime Minister. I'm not absolutely sure what his other advisors are, but the stuff that I'm hearing is that quite a lot of cabinet ministers have said to him that he's unlikely to win a leadership contest within the Labour Party. The Labour Party membership is much smaller than it ever was, and therefore the numbers of people that are going to vote in a leadership election are much smaller. But I would have thought the wind is certainly in favour of Andy Burnham at the present time. But I have to say, the strange thing about all this is all of the media are very focused on a debate between the personalities. At no stage has any policy debate actually come into it, which I find very strange.
Well, yes, I mean, he hasn't, until now, he hasn't been an MP for a while, has he? We don't know yet what his policy platform would be. Do you think he is prime ministerial material?
I've known Andy quite well. I was with him in the shadow cabinet. I fought a leadership campaign alongside him. Personally, I get on fine with him and like him. Where I think I would disagree with him is on his basic economic strategy and views, which seem to me to be accepting too much of the austerity that we've had imposed upon us, and doesn't appear to be doing anything, as I can see it, differently internationally. I mean, I wrote to him, for example, to ask if he'd support something as straightforward as an inquiry into government strategy relating to Gaza and the supply of weapons, things like that. It seems to me that if there's going to be a change, then there's got to be some significant policy changes as well. And so the unpopularity of the government stems from the threats to welfare benefits, stems from the continuing austerity, and is deeply unpopular for a lot of other policies, particularly its rather draconian attacks on rights of assembly and freedom of speech. And so I think Burnham needs to come out with something that is a bit different.
Yeah. Reports are that he has been ringing round senior members of the party to say, give me your ideas of what a first 100 days of a Burnham premiership would look like, what you would bring to the table. What do you think his priority will be, and who do you think will be in his close team?
The close team appears to be around Louise Haigh, Annalise Midgley and Angela Rayner. That looks like what his close team is. On the policy objectives, I'd be more confident if he actually set out some ideas of his own. But I would have thought the first thing has to be examining and dealing with the appalling levels of poverty and inequality in our society. I mean, I walk past homeless people every day in my constituency and anywhere else in London or any big city. I see huge queues outside food banks all over the country. This is not a country at ease with itself with that degree of poverty and inequality. And so then the siren call from the Conservatives and indeed from quite a lot of Labour MPs of cutting welfare to spend more on warfare, what does that do to the cohesion of our society and our communities? What does that do for poor and often hungry children?
Yeah, difficult choices to make for Andy Burnham should he take over the top job. Do you think, I mean, you mentioned some of the things there that you notice when you look at what's wrong with society, homelessness, food banks, cost of living. He has prioritised those as Mayor of Manchester, hasn't he?
Yes.
Do you think that is his model in Manchester is replicable at a national level?
I think running a city is obviously different from running a country, but yes, the principle of trying to deal with homelessness and deal with food shortages and poverty amongst the poorest families is, but he can only do that within the envelope of the funding available for Greater Manchester. And obviously he tried to do quite a lot in that area. At a national level, it's not about setting within an envelope of funding, it's about setting the priority of what you actually want to do, because you can decide what the envelope of funding is for all of that. And when the Conservatives and Reform spend their whole time saying we've got to cut the excessive welfare bill, as they keep referring to it, without any recognition of what that will do to the poorest people, and then moving on to blame the whole thing on refugees, of which they're hardly to blame for any of the economic ills of our society. And so that then, in turn, fuels the horrible growth of racism in our society. Surely it's the job of the Prime Minister to say, hang on, we want to bring this community together. We want to tackle the issues of poverty, unemployment and stress that goes with it. And also recognise that if we allow this kind of horrible racist rhetoric to grow within our society, then we end up as a very divided country. Surely the job is to bring people together.
Mr Corbyn, can I ask you your interpretation of the result in Makerfield in terms of reform? Disappointing for them that they didn't win, but they still got the highest, I think, number of votes in any constituency election that they've had before. How do you think, with a national election, should that be with Reform facing a Prime Minister of Andy Burnham? Do you think that he could face off that challenge?
Clearly, you're right. This is the largest vote for reform in any election, albeit they didn't win it. And even if Restore had not run, they would still not have won it, but there would have been a smaller majority for Burnham. I think it is worrying, the growth of support for reform, and I think it's important that there be a real challenge against reform. Not just on the personality or otherwise of Farage or anybody else. It is about how we as a country look at each other and look at ourselves. And are we really going to go down the road of saying that political power rests on blaming minorities within our society, rather than trying to bring people together in a cohesion of ending poverty and discrimination within our society? I think there are changes that we can make.